Hi, everyone. This is Rico Figliolini, host of Peachtree Corners Life, and this episode of Prime Lunchtime with City Manager Brian Johnson. Brian, welcome.
Thank you.
Good
Good
to
to
have
be
you.
here.
It's funny, we were talking just off camera a little bit about what we had to talk about close to the holidays, how much is going on, and is it quiet because there's less traffic out there? I'm thinking it's also quiet, but no, there's so much going on that I'm excited. I'm excited to hear about all the stuff that's going on here that's going to be happening in 2020, hopefully, or beginning even in there. So let's just start right into it because one of the major things that just recently happened was another city got hit with cyber attack and cyber
New Orleans.
New Orleans, and cybersecurity is a real big thing. So tell us, because now the city's looking at what they should be doing, right? Atlanta happened, Louisiana, other cities. There's another small city that it got hit like that recently. So tell us what our city is doing to plan for that.
Well, we have had some things in place before. So it's not like, we just, a couple days ago woke up and we're like, ooh, we have to do
for sure.
something.
Uh-huh.
But, with some of the attacks that we've seen recently, we realized that we need to really take a hard look at it. So I took somebody who's currently on staff who's really well versed in this, has been his entire career, and sent him to some extra schooling. And it's Brandon Branham, the assistant city manager,
Right.
who I gave him the collateral duty of being the chief technology officer for the city, and sent him to some extra training in things like cybersecurity.
Okay.
And he has come, he came back from some of that and some of his research, and we upgraded some of there's kind of like 4 legs to the cybersecurity stool.
Uh-huh.
And you have certain aspects of information coming in and out that you've got to make sure are hardened. Whether it's your firewall or how you store it, whether it's cloud or server,
Right.
and your access points, and there's just different things that you've got to look at. And so we've upgraded 3 of the 4 already, and we're getting ready to do the 4th leg. So we've already hardened some of our stuff. Second thing, though, is as we're looking at this, you realize that one of the byproducts of having a city be more known out there in the internet universe,
Right.
it puts us into a position where more people tend to probe our defenses.
Uh-huh.
The day of our grand opening of Curiosity Lab, we had, I believe it's a 2,000% increase in hack attempts, penetration attempts
Wow.
at our firewall
Huh.
from the day before,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
because we were out there.
Sure. Especially
People were
with
talking
Sprint,
about
5G
it,
and
and
that.
all this kind of stuff. And so people out there are like, well, who's this? What's this City of Peachtree Corners? And let's see if we can't get in.
Right.
So it's an unfortunate byproduct of
Yeah.
that. And then, so you recognizing the risk,
Mm-hmm.
doing things that that preventative things from an equipment standpoint to set yourself up the best way for success. Having redundancy and things like if something happened, we can fall back and we didn't lose all the information.
Backups and multiple backups.
Right. And then the last thing, the most important, most people don't realize this, but the greatest risk for hacking, or the greatest, what's right with, I guess,
Opportunity to
well,
get in.
it's the greatest, the most significant risk for there being an opportunity for a hacker to come in is created in the 18 or so inches between where somebody
right.
sits at their desk and their computer.
A USB drive.
Most of these things happen because somebody clicked on something
Mhm.
and opened a way for a hacker to get in.
Yeah.
New Orleans was that way. Somebody clicked on something and invited, I think it's ransomware, into the system.
They were locked
and
up,
so we have initiated an internal training program. We have done things like sending out internal to our IT team.
Mm-hmm.
We send out
Fake.
fake
Yeah.
phishing
Yeah.
emails
Hacking yourself a
to
little bit.
see
Right.
who's clicking
Right.
on these things and then educating them on
Ethical hacking.
right. But I mean, we do it internal, but
Right.
so when you do it, it doesn't do anything other than tell us who clicked on it. And then we have training sessions on here's what happened, here are some ways that when you see something that is unique that you can determine whether it's legit or not, or it a lot of it comes down to, if you see something, say something.
Right.
And we hear that on things like at the airport or whatever, when it comes to terrorism or whatever. But even on here, if you see something in an email that's weird and they're asking you to, don't just assume, ask.
Right. Send
Ask
it
the
out.
expert, hey, call IT in and say, hey, should I click on this? This is weird. Or forward it and say,
That's it. Yeah.
And so most everybody, including members of city council, were very good at sending an email back saying, is this spam or is this whatever? We have a few, and so it's just education.
Private companies need to do this as well, and I don't think they do it as well in smaller companies. I know where I work, it's the same thing though, because we'll get phishing emails all the time, and they'll forward it to me because I'm the default IT guy that connects
Lucky
to
you.
Yes, I know. So it's like, never click on anything that looks stupid. Even if it looks like an Apple paid receipt and they just want you to verify that this is you, do not click on a link. Go to Apple itself, sign in, and find out, because they'll let you know there. And most companies don't send emails out of those types of things. It's just like, but they're getting better. I mean, most phishing emails will be the standard. Here's a link, and I think you would be interested in this. And it looks like your friend's email or someone else's email, but it's not. But some of them are really, they're getting better at
they're getting more
at
sophisticated.
imitating a good legitimate Amazon email. I've got one of those where it was an Amazon, looked like it was Amazon, had all the strings to it, but it was masked, the URL, so you really couldn't see what was going on there. It's just like ridiculous, and people will click on those.
Yes,
because if you get thousands of those, or hundreds, or 20 a week, one of them you might click on, and that's right.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
So we've really recognized, and it's really not a matter of if, it's when.
Yeah.
That we get somebody, inside the system. We just we're feeling more confident all the time that if it does, we can quickly isolate it, and we're not going to be crippled.
Yeah.
But
it's good that you're looking at that. There's so much software out there that can figure that stuff out also.
There is, but one of the big things that's helped, kind of motivate us maybe to get ourselves to, kind of the cutting edge of this is Curiosity Lab, just the amount of data that we're going to have generated.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes that data could be proprietary.
Right.
And if it got out, it could harm a company that was doing testing and data. I mean, imagine if you had a car manufacturer doing some test on, say, some advanced technology on their vehicle, and that data got out to their competitor. That could hurt them.
Sure.
And we don't want to be the reason why that.
Yeah.
And so we've had to really look at our data management plan and creating one with some help of some experts to make sure that we have as good of one as really, we want it to be a model. We want it to be best in show.
Yeah.
And it's helped, since Curiosity Lab, we've had to spend so much time on that, it's helped us apply it to the city as a whole.
And your partnerships with Sprint and other companies probably help with some knowledge base coming in, right?
No doubt about it. I mean, we've taken, as you know, the stance of, aside from the fact that we have the service delivery model of outsourcing. So we're very used to pulling in experts in different, but we've got experts in these very, specific technical fields, and we just pull information from them when need be. And so we have a large private network of partners that we pull from when it comes to these areas to say, look, we need to ultimately get here, help us get there, because this is in your area of expertise.
Cool. So moving over to from cybersecurity to camera, we talked about camera, plate ID, facial ID, security cameras outside of subdivisions. Where is that moving along? I understand January maybe something that you're.
Yeah, so January, I think I'm going to be presenting council with the locations on public streets that we're going to place them.
Okay.
And then Gwinnett County is almost ready to start receiving that data
Okay.
in real time. So ultimately, how it'll be set up is we will have cameras at certain intersections on certain public streets. So just understand that the cameras we're talking about right now are cameras that are placed in the public right of way, and they're oriented on the public right of way. No private, property
No
is.
entries or anything.
No, none of that. I mean, you potentially pick one up depending on the orientation of the camera, but it's oriented down a public right of way.
Okay.
And the purpose, and so these are video and surveillance and license plate recognition cameras together, and the data collected from it will go to the cloud. And the only one accessing this information is Gwinnett County PD.
Okay. How long does it stay in the cloud?
30 days.
30 days.
We will have it 30 days in the cloud, and then it'll be essentially recorded over.
Okay.
As day 31 comes in, day 1 gets recorded
So
over.
police, in case there was a robbery or burglary or shoplifting, whatever, they could probably get that data. They have enough time. 30 days is enough time.
That's correct. And if it's not, we can look at what it would cost to go a little bit longer. But, as you know, storage, whether it's a server or in the cloud, costs.
Yeah.
And so, we want them to have access. So, Gwinnett County PD would have access two ways. One, the license plate recognition data is real time. And so, if a license plate was on a vehicle that had some sort of a warrant out, BOLO, be on the lookout associated with that, it automatically sends a message to Gwinnett County PD. Here's what license plate, here's why there's a, some
So
warrant, and here's the location. And if it's serious enough, Gwinnett County PD can dispatch officers maybe beyond where they just got it to try to intercept.
Okay.
There's a lot that they won't. Like, for instance, Brookhaven's probably a good example because they have this. And, they're getting, I want to say they're getting like 9,000 a month.
Really?
Yes, but like I want to say 3/4 of those are failure to appear, or
violation,
no insurance, expired tags, and they just don't have the resources and are not going to do anything. They're worried about ones that are associated with some violent things or Amber Alerts or things like that, stolen vehicles, and so they'll make a decision on that. So that's real time when they get that center set up. I think it's in the first quarter of next year they can do that. And then the video data is in the cloud, and they'll just pull it if they need to investigate something that happened. They'll go back and pull it from a certain period of time, and that's it. So really, the city's putting it in as a force multiplier for Gwinnett County PD.
So does the city pays for it, city maintains that, but the Gwinnett Police.
Well, the city pays for it, but it's a program through Georgia Power.
Okay.
And so it's really a lease program.
Oh, okay.
And so the reason it's a lease program is because Georgia Power, it's basically considered like a service. So they do this with streetlights.
Yeah.
We don't own the streetlights in the city. We lease them from Georgia Power. And the lease includes, so what we pay per month per light includes the light itself. It technically included the installation of it. So the city didn't pay up front for the light.
Okay.
It includes the electricity.
Sure.
And it includes any repair.
Okay.
So if a street light is out, we call Georgia Power, and they go and they repair
Do they
it.
also take care of the trimming of the trees?
They do.
Oh, they do. Okay. As part of that.
Well, that's not part of it. They don't want their power lines and any of their infrastructure affected by that. So they do that. And that's the same with the camera. So our monthly cost per camera includes the camera itself. It includes the cloud storage.
Oh, okay.
It includes the electricity to run the camera.
Sure.
And it includes any kind of maintenance or repair that needs to be done on it if it's not working right.
Okay.
And so we pay that, so the city will pay that, but then all that other stuff would be Georgia Power if it needs to be, so maintaining it or...
It's amazing how they expanded their business model too, because the electricity is running 24 hours, 7 days a week on that. So, all right, cool.
Well, just so that you kind of get the gist of why Georgia Power wanted to make Curiosity Lab their smart city lab themselves, because it's Curiosity Lab is Georgia Power's smart city laboratory. So they're using it as their own test bed too.
Okay.
That's why one of their partners. So they, the city, this program, the city became we became knowledgeable about this program called SiteView, is what Georgia through their work with Curiosity Lab.
Okay.
So their purpose here is to test technology that they can hang on their infrastructure throughout the state. I mean, think about Georgia Power sitting on millions of light poles throughout the state of Georgia that are already in public rights of way. And if they can come up with really good technology that they can offer to cities, including like smart city technology, they can go to a city X and say, hey, you want to be a smart city? We got this technology that can make it smarter. And in this case, let's say a camera. We got a video, an LPR camera. We can hang on our pole, and you can lease it from us. You don't have to do anything else, and you're getting smarter. You can you can tap into it. You can. There's all sorts of other smart city stuff that you can put out on poles, and so that's what they're testing. That's what they're trying to monetize. Something, an infrastructure, asset that they have millions of around the state, and
and it makes sense for them.
It makes complete sense.
Not only for them, but obviously to rent to other people that may have better ideas to be able to use.
And really, I mean, lease, rent versus own is an argument you can make, but to a lot of cities, that's a lot better because we pay one sum, and then we have no headache.
Cool.
That's
the same thing like that in intergovernmental agreements. You're just paying someone else to do it. You don't have to worry about it. Like the police, like the fire, same thing. Let's go into all right. So the next thing that's coming up that you shared with us last time, but now you're going to be talking about it a little bit more, is the Revitalization Authority.
Redevelopment Authority.
Redevelopment rather. So right, revitalization. We're not there. So redevelopment of an area versus the other setup that we have for the town center.
The Downtown Development Authority?
Yeah, so tell us the difference and tell us where we're going with the other one.
So there are a number of authorities that cities can create that we've been given the power to create by virtue of state statute. And the state of Georgia has created or given cities and counties the ability to create different authorities for different purposes. These authorities are standalone organizations that oftentimes have a lot of the same powers that a city has. They can incur debt, they can execute agreements, they can own property, they can construct things, they can own, buildings, and they can do a lot of the things the cities can. But they were created to maybe fill some gaps that cities can't. One of the main ones that people oftentimes talk about is cities have a constitutional requirement for us to bid things out when we want to construct, and then it has to go to the lowest qualified bidder.
Not necessarily the best quality, but the lowest bid.
Not necessarily the best, not necessarily the one that you want to work with, or that's more, creative or whatever, but the lowest. So that handcuffs a city sometimes on negotiating certain deals, because I could, as a city manager, sit down in a room and negotiate a deal all day long, but I don't have the city, because I would be doing it on behalf of the city, doesn't oftentimes have the ability to execute that thing, because when it came time to do it, we would have to bid it out.
Right.
And that entity that I was talking to may not be the lowest bidder. So one of the ways to get, to give more flexibility for things that need more flexibility was the creation of these authorities.
Okay.
And the city had one initially, early on, it was a Downtown Development Authority. And it has all those powers that I just told you about. The downtown component means their their area of operation was limited to what we had termed to be our downtown. So we created and drew an official line that we consider our downtown, and their authority was limited to inside of that.
Okay.
Redevelopment authority, very similar, but its scope is for it to redevelop property that's been developed already.
Okay. So no geographic boundaries, could be anywhere in the city.
Or it could be geographically limited if council wanted to.
Okay.
It could say we're going to our redevelopment zone is going to be here and we're going to limit it to. But they could also say the state merely says that it has to be used on property that's been previously developed. You can't go to a property that's
vacant.
that's never been developed.
Okay.
That's never been
I mean,
done
that's the
anything.
case with most of the property around here, right?
And so we don't have a lot of that.
Okay.
Most of the property around here has been developed.
Right.
And so we're now kind of, Fiserv is maybe one of the largest ones left, that there was a lot of undeveloped property. Governor's Lake still has some,
Right.
but we don't have a whole lot after that. Simpson Wood is going to be a park, so that's not going to be, that's a large tract of land. But anyway,
But there's a lot of aging property also.
there is. And there's some opportunities for us to take property that's had something on it, but it's had its day and maybe it needs to get redeveloped. And so council's going to kind of shift their orientation and attention from, maybe the town center, which is right now kind of got it's
legs
kind of,
up
it's
and
kind of
everything.
got on cruise control right now. We're seeing some things finished, but it's, as far as construction and everything, the town green will always be talking about what activities we need to have and what didn't work last year and all that kind of stuff. But it's time for us to maybe look at some properties that need to be redeveloped. And what we want to do, what council wants to do, is to bring as many tools as we can to the table. And a redevelopment authority is a way to do that, because they have opportunities to do things that the city can't do directly.
So now you're going to be presenting this as city manager, presenting this to council, and the idea is maybe to open it up to applications or.
Right. So for us to populate the board,
Right.
because it is a board, council will go through a process of vetting of candidates, and then they appoint the board. But once that board is appointed, it is an independent board.
So it doesn't need city council approval to do its business.
That does not.
Because as an authority, a state established authority.
Correct.
They could do whatever they want,
That's
even
correct.
raising bonds and
That's
funds
correct.
if they need to.
Now, their limitation is going to be money initially. So that's where city council's role comes in, is the redevelopment authority. Legally could go to a bank and say, we want to take out a loan. But the bank would turn around and immediately say, where are you going to get the money to pay the loan?
Right.
And they wouldn't have that.
Right.
The DDA, Downtown Development Authority, didn't either
Right.
until the city appropriated money and gave it to the DDA. And then the DDA bought the land that the town center is on.
The city was sort of the guarantor
It was.
to that loan.
Absolutely. And so it may need to be that way for a while with the redevelopment authority. But over time, these things start to get, so, the last city I came from was Anniston, Alabama.
Yeah.
And it was an old city. And we had an industrial development authority that had deals that it had done in the past that were generating a bunch of revenue.
Right.
They would end up constructing say like a warehouse, and then somebody would come in and lease it from them. And over the years, the lease had paid off the loan, so now the lease amounts were profit.
So it's not
And
just,
so they, at that point, you can get to a point where they didn't even need city council technically, because they had their own revenue stream.
So it's funny because some people, like me included, probably think, well, the authority would go back to the city and say, how about we get a tax abatement for this development? But I'm not
Which they can do.
Correct, but I'm not thinking that they could actually build their own facility and then get lease money out of it. So they have that opportunity too, to build something bigger, grander, multi-use, transportation-based hub or whatever. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yep.
Of things to do, and then bring in those people, those other developers. They would lease the space, do what they need.
And they
to
can do direct negotiated. maybe public-private partnerships without having to bid it out and
Right.
it go to the low bidder. So sometimes you can be more creative
Sure.
that way when you can, negotiate, not have to do that.
Yeah.
So, there's some opportunity, and it also brings in a board of comprised of people that are looking at these issues with fresh eyes.
Right. Sure.
Sometimes when you're in the sausage making of providing things, services by the city to our, residents, sometimes it's hard to get outside of that,
Yeah,
and these
yeah.
are people who are looking at it with a fresh perspective, and they may have some, things that, we should look at that we've overlooked internal to the city so far, or they're going to help, educate the public as to why we're doing it. I mean, so it's just more stakeholders involved in the process.
Right.
So
So, that reminded me also that I think Gwinnett County is looking back at, not that this reminded me, but it's the same sort of along the lines of citizen participant, if you will, because the people that could apply for that authority are citizens that could be in business, could be retired, could be anyone that has a decent resume or a background that would want to submit the application to see if they could be on that authority. Who picks those people?
council will appoint them.
Okay, council will appoint them. So that reminded me, I think it was the I-85 survey that Gwinnett County is putting out again. And again, it's another look at transit one more time, or at least the next time, because this will keep going until something happens and water ends up coming into Gwinnett County. That survey is going on now. Would you encourage people to take that survey?
Oh, absolutely. Even the city. We've had, I've taken the survey,
Okay.
both as a resident and as, the city manager of the city. And it's important. I mean, to let the powers that be know your thoughts on transportation.
I think that was a vote against getting MARTA, putting a big $1 billion train, if you will, into the area. Now it's funny. I saw something about light rail and monorail transportation. I mean, again, that could be part of that mix possibly, but that survey is out there. They're going to come back again to, I'm sure, put this on the ballot.
There's talk that it'll be next,
2020?
November of 2020 that may be back on the ballot.
Interesting. All right, so and that'll be a different voting time than the March when that was the only thing on the
Right.
ballot.
I think the talk now is to put it on the, when we've got the national
presidential,
ticket. Yep.
yeah.
And you'll get, so, I mean, they haven't made a vote, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's back on the ballot then.
Yeah, that's not surprising. I was at a grand opening just recently. It was a new place that just opened. Brightree is the company. An IT, depending on the description you get, it's either an IT company or it's a medical company, depending on what website or how you do that search online. Because it is a software IT company, but that deals with medical equipment
And home health care, right?
Right, acute home health
Yep.
care. And that facility, if anyone drove by on 125 Technology Parkway or 175 maybe, it's on the right side going towards 141 from Andaby behind you. And it's a beautiful facility. They gave us a tour. It was excellent. 160 jobs that's coming from Lawrenceville to Peachtree Corners. And it reminded me of Industrious, which is sort of a WeWork space on the perimeter. Just beautiful, open, wide corridors, open spaces, areas to, wellness rooms, calm rooms in case you need to calm yourself down. I saw that there. But high technology and all that. One of many that is being renovated. That was down to the wall, to one wall practically, and this totally built out. Ashray. Ashray is another company that's going to spend millions on renovating.
So we were excited to be at that grand opening. And so, Brightree got bought out by a bigger company and they expanded.
Yeah.
And they came in and they started a search in Metro Atlanta as to where they wanted to go. And while their search was going on, Curiosity Lab got onto their radar screen. And the CEO was kind of like, what is this Curiosity Lab? And he started to look into it. and ultimately told their broker that they wanted to be somewhere associated with that. And the exciting part for us was, he announced at the grand opening that Curiosity Lab was actually why they chose that site ultimately. The exciting thing for us was two things about it. One is they took a building that Honeywell had occupied for a long time that had been vacant for longer than the city of Peachtree Corners had been in existence. They bought that thing, gutted it, made it a really innovative, space, and returned it to a productive use. And then they decided to move to that location because of Curiosity Lab, something that they don't have anything to do with. That to me was really, because if they were like some sort of a, like mobility company or a cybersecurity company and they wanted to be there but they're not going to be using it. He said the reason they wanted to move there is because Curiosity Lab has created this innovative ecosystem in Tech Park that they wanted to just be a part of. Even though they're not directly involved, they wanted to be around the synergy that comes from that kind of thing. And that was awesome to hear, because Curiosity Lab now can officially say it was responsible for 160 jobs. And in September of 2020, when ASHRAE, which is the American Society for Refrigeration, Air Conditioning, and something engineers, but it's the design professionals for the interior systems of buildings,
HVAC,
lighting, HVAC, all that kind of stuff. These are the design professionals for that, the engineers, the mechanical engineers, whatever. It's their professional organization. They decided to move their global headquarters to the old Recall building to build a big classroom and education space in there, to make their building a net zero building, and to kind of bring people in to see how they could take a building, gut it out, and make it net zero, and kind of show off the newest one. But they came to that area because of Curiosity Lab, and so that'll be 120 jobs. So Curiosity Lab will have been responsible for 280 direct jobs, and in buildings that have been vacant for, in some cases, really long time.
Old buildings.
Not to mention, we haven't even gotten into the hotel increase due to the activity and all that kind of stuff. So really excited to have an innovative company like Brightree that's doing some pretty cool stuff, but for them to just want to be in that ecosystem because of that is pretty cool. I mean, it just shows that creating Curiosity Lab for the purposes of economic development has absolutely happened. And then there was a big a big article in Biz Now. Siemens Corporation is expanding and decided to stay in Peachtree Corners and expand here, and they now have 800, 900 jobs in Peachtree Corners. Big expansion within here. They could have gone anywhere, but they decided to stay because of some things that are going on. That's a international.
That's a big company.
And so it's our vacancy rates are going down. We're really seeing activity picking back up, and it's exciting times.
It's not that we're Silicon Valley, but it's funny how people want to be around what's starting up as technology and mobility and all that, because you're meeting other people. I mean, that's the whole idea of WeWorkspace. That's the whole idea of the way Brightree set up their work environment, where people can talk to each other, less closed offices and more open spaces, more collaborative spaces. The idea is to be able to be out there then and talking to other people, bumping into other people, like at Andy Brewery. Maybe people are going there, or other places within Tech Park, because they have synergy with each other to a degree, right?
Well, I mean, even Curiosity Lab, we oftentimes refer to it like the sandbox that we created with this technology, these technology toys that we put in the sandbox, and we invited people to come play. And that interaction is why, Georgia Tech is doing initiating 4 research projects at Curiosity Lab next year in January. Really? 4 different ones. Okay. And they were in the sandbox playing, kind of getting ready for that. And Delta was in the sandbox, kind of looking around at the toys, and they look across the sandbox and like, hey, Georgia Tech, what are you doing here? And They tell them, and Delta's like, that's some cool stuff. Can we be a part of some of it? And
So-
Georgia, sure. So they partnered, and Delta now is part of some of those projects because, and they met because of that synergy of.
And that's what that's all about, right?
It
I mean,
is.
That's how Silicon Valley got big. That's how parts of Boston and Brooklyn, New York, and other places that are hubs for the technology
Yep.
or biodiversity and stuff. That's how they got going, right? Because
It is.
you get that in
It
there.
is.
That's like Atlanta Tech Park, that where this podcast room is out of here, out of Atlanta Tech Park. I mean, this is a place that also technology companies are talking to each other and learning a bit from each other and stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole purpose of it, and it's working well. So we're very pleased with the progress so
Yes.
far.
Now you've had 7 countries in 6 weeks come to Peachtree. 7 countries in 6 weeks. I can't say that again. That's one a week, more than one a week. That you've had come to here because of.
They have
Curiosity
approached
Lab,
us
right?
with official delegations
Yes.
representing the government of a country have been here. Well, let's see, we've had delegations from Israel, Great Britain, France, Taiwan, Canada, Belgium, Australia.
Wow, pretty diverse all over the country, all over the world.
Some of them had their consul generals actually part of the delegation. Or in Taiwan's case, the trade ambassador from Taiwan to the U.S. was part of that. So this isn't like some underling.
Right.
And they have approached us on wanting to learn more and wanting to explore maybe ways for companies from those countries to maybe have Curiosity Lab as used as kind of a landing pad for companies that either want to test some things in our environment, or in some cases it's just demonstrate their product
Showcase.
in the North American market here in the Metro
Great.
Atlanta area. And
Great.
so 2 of them, Israel and Taiwan, we have executed memorandums of understanding to create that pipeline that hopefully we start seeing some, and it may be temporary, it may be just a couple of days, it may be longer, but a couple days of these companies operating here, they're going to be eating in our restaurants, maybe shopping in our stores, and certainly staying in our hotels.
Well, and these are the same people, same countries that'll be coming again, probably, to the 2020 Smart City Expo that's going to be happening again.
Well,
in
we
June,
just
I
got
think, right?
May, isn't it? I
Is
think
it
it's May.
May, okay.
But
I know
yes,
it's
it's
sooner
sooner.
than it
It
was,
is. And we just got off the phone. Artie Tandon, the CEO of Smart City Expo Atlanta, just called me 2 days ago and wanted to discuss ways that she could include Curiosity Lab in the next Smart City Expo
Isn't
again.
that-
She
that's
was like,
amazing.
I
She
need you
liked that.
guys as part of it. So we're looking at doing something. Maybe we do as part of the conference, kind of like a pitch day or a demonstration day,
That
to
would
where
be
you
cool.
could have companies come out here and for that day, they get to demonstrate to an audience of people maybe that are comprised of venture capital money, or maybe it's representatives from some of the Atlanta headquartered companies. And they can pitch and demonstrate their product, and maybe that some of those companies are interested in talking to them about partnering or buying or using or whatever. And so we're going to keep exploring it. But again, we're at a point where we used to be at the table pitching Curiosity Lab, saying, hey, it's going to be this really cool
Right,
thing. And
right.
now it's the other way around, where people are like, what can we do to partner so that we can do some things at your laboratory?
We were talking about this before we started the streaming about getting so much interest that sometimes you have to put your hand up and slow it down a little bit and say and sort it out, because some of it's legitimate, some of it is serious, and you want to see how you want to take that, and you're also learning too. You're also realizing out there in the world there's other cities doing other things, and you're bringing back more knowledge to the city to be able to say, you know what, we could take this also and do this here maybe.
And we are trying to figure out, we're wanting to do everything well, because all it takes, as you know, is one big mistake.
Yes.
And we could ruin our reputation. You know, people are like, oh, don't go there. You know, we could have some sort of like data loss or,
Right.
you know, whatever. Don't go there because they don't have their act together.
Mm.
So we got to be very careful about that. We have some companies that are ready to go right this second. We just like, hold on, we're not quite ready for you to like, you know, hook into our system or,
Right.
you know, whatever.
Mm.
But then we're also trying to take all this and make sure that we are learning innovative stuff to stay ahead of. We got cities nipping at our heels right now, and we have got to continue to stay at the leading edge, or else we're going to get caught and potentially passed. And now this will be, you know, yawn.
Right.
You know,
Right.
this is
And
being
that's the
done
danger.
everywhere.
That's
It
the
is.
danger of that if you're not continuing on this. So that's a great partnership with even Smart City Expo Atlanta
It is.
and doing that type of.
And other big partners, you know, we have, I mean, Georgia Power and Sprint and Georgia Tech and Delta, they're all looking for ways to stay at the leading edge. And we're hoping that they're pulling, and they are pulling some of that back here, and we're learning some things. And then, you know, to mayor and council's credit, I mean, you know, first, let's, you know, give them credit for funding and supporting my staff and I's effort to do this. This is unique, you know, so this isn't like something that, you know, cities do a lot, and they could have been really criticized for spending money on something that's not quite as conventional as just more police officers or
Right.
more potholes being patched. And
Right.
those are important, but you also have to consider economic development activity. And if all of a sudden we had no potholes, but we also had lots of empty storefronts, you know, we've got problems ourselves. So they've been very, you know, politically, you know, strong in supporting this.
The city can chew them and chew gum and walk at the same time. So there's so much
Yes.
going on in the city. And as a city manager, I know I give you a lot of credit too, because you're essentially running the city, and there's so many things that you have to worry about and take care of. And I'm sure it's way different than. And you're working. You guys are working on tight staffing and stuff. So everyone's working really hard to be able to get us down that same road to a degree to make sure everything works well. So I commend you for the work that you and your staff is
Well,
doing.
I mean, I
'Cause,
appreciate my staff. I mean, look, I've got bosses that support me
no doubt.
and are very, you know, they have a lot of, you know, innovative foresight when it comes to their governance. And then I just I know one thing well, and that is that I don't know everything. And so
That's what I like about you, Brian, because you're willing to say that and know that you can still.
And so
grow.
I just try to surround myself with people that are smarter than me and ask them what they need to get the job done and do my best to provide it to them and then get out of their way.
Okay, cool.
And so I've got some great staff that does it, and it's exciting to be a part of the city.
It's good to count on other people.
It is.
We're at the end of our time together here. It's 45 minutes of learning what the city's doing, what's coming up, and 2020 is going to be real big. So I mean, there's the bridge that's going up, there's redevelopment that's going to be going on, I'm sure. And we didn't even talk about one of my favorite things. So I got to ask about this because we did talk about it a little bit. I've noticed on Nextdoor, the app, there's been people talking about wouldn't it be great to have a theater company in Peachtree Corners? How would that be? And I saw so many people respond to that, both saying, well, we have high school theater, but what about adults? And we would love to, I've seen people, we would love to do the backstage. We'd love to be, you know, acting and singing and whatever. There is an arts council. We had a master plan developed, and there's really more talk about having possibly a some sort of theater being built, or performance arts center being built on the Chile property.
So at the town center, there's one more parcel of land that's undeveloped. It's the parcel of land that you can see along what would that be, the eastern edge of the town green that's still wooded. The city owns that. Mayor and council are considering options on how to develop that. And you know, other than telling you that whatever we do there, I know city council wants it to be a value add to the town center and a draw in and of itself. Performing arts center of some sort has been probably a common theme throughout the whole thing is maybe we put something in there. And our arts master plan identified a couple of I guess call it size venues that are lacking in the immediate area. So
Right.
there are some sweet spot that we can hit that seat a certain amount of people that there's really not that, because there are some that are really big in the area, some
Right.
that are really small. There's some areas that master plan, the consultant who did it felt like it was a sweet spot. So
Sure.
council is certainly interested in pursuing something like that, because that would be a draw.
That would
It would pull people to
Sure.
the town center, and when you do that and they're done, they want to do something afterwards. It's the whole reason why Gwinnett County is trying to do the Revel and everything up
Right.
at the Infinite Energy
That's
Center.
right. That's right.
Is the complaint was you go to something there, and when you're done, you walk outside and there's nothing around.
That's
You got to
right.
get in your car and you got to drive somewhere else. And once you get in your car, you're kind of like, screw
Wouldn't
it, we're
be-
going home.
And wouldn't it be great to go to Firebird, have dinner, and then go to a play?
Absolutely. And then afterwards, you can leave and go back and have
Right.
drinks somewhere,
That's right.
or whatever. And so that's the theory here.
Mm-hmm.
And so mayor and council will continue looking at activating that, and but that's certainly one of the highest priorities that they've talked about, is trying to make
I
that
can't
happen.
wait. That would be awesome to be able to have that there. I'm total advocate for that. We want, well, okay, so 5-serve, we don't need to talk about it, but it's happening, and
It is.
the first phase is looking that's going to break.
Just
early next
under
year.
about 200 units of.
Okay. So that's
you
going to be
know,
happening
It is.
on East Jones Bridge Road. But the thing that really I want to sort of hit on for a few minutes before we end our time together is that the apartments and the Indigo Boutique Hotel. So the apartment's actually called the Innovation
Lofts.
Lofts. I love that name, but Innovation Lofts, hopefully. I mean, from what I saw, the renderings should look beautiful. But the Indigo Hotel has been financed. Is that
So both that pedestal,
Yeah.
covered parking apartment complex, Innovation Lofts,
Yeah.
355 units, and then the Hotel Indigo,
Mm-hmm.
that has been, the capital has been raised. The adequate capital has been raised to
build
do
it.
that. Yep. And so it looks like that's a go. With the capital having been raised, and we're going to have both of those happen right behind, where Chase Bank and the Georgia
Right.
Clinic and the
Yeah.
Black Walnut was, that area
base
right
and
there. Yep,
hole over
that's
there.
going to be sitting right
That's
there.
going to be both buildings. Over
It
there.
is.
It's amazing that's small. It seems small when you look at it, but both of those 7-story towers.
Well,
Well,
yeah, I
6
mean
stories,
six.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's 6 stories on the apartment. I think
Right.
Indigo's only like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're both next to each other, kind of cantilever, or they're like
Catty corner
yeah,
or something like angled.
with the pool and
Yeah.
and the main check-in area kind of in between for the hotel and everything. So, but it's small. But if you think about parking, is all going to be underground.
Amazing.
That
Yeah.
allows you to do some things.
Yeah.
So
So that's happening.
exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. I'm sure all the businesses around town center and in that whole area over there is, I mean,
Well, that's
a
the whole
lot
reason
of
you
people.
do mixed use, is
Yeah.
because you want residential units close to where you have retail and restaurant, because that walk up convenient
That's
shopper or
That's right.
patron is who you want.
Mhm.
And the more residential units we have, the more activity, all of that,
Yeah.
those restaurants on both sides, because the Forum too, with that pedestrian bridge, if you live right there, you could just walk right across there
That's
to the
right.
Forum, and
That's right.
you don't have to get in your car. And so we're excited about the development that's happening there.
And the town hall, townhouses, actually, they poured some foundations.
They have.
already, so-
Foundations are being poured on the first section of it, so those are going in. That's 75, I believe,
75, right.
townhome
Yeah.
units right there. So
Interesting.
it's happening.
Yeah, cool. Lots happening out there. Appreciate you joining Brian Johnson, City Manager of City of Peachtree Corners. So for others that may be listening that are not part of the city, there's just so much happening. You just need to visit.
That's right.
So just go to livinginpeachtreecorners.com. That's my website. I'm publisher of Peachtree Corners magazine. We're working on the next issue for February, March. Some good stories, a great cover story we're working on. And pick up the last issue or go to livinginpeachtreecorners.com to see it online on a digital edition of the 20 under 20 kids
awesome
And
addition. That was a cool idea that you did.
That was so great to see these kids, and we had a photo shoot with these kids. They
Mhm.
got to know each other and traded numbers and emails and stuff. So it's good. It's good to see that collaboration amongst.
It's also good to see young kids doing great stuff. It
Yeah.
gives me confidence that the future is in good hands.
For sure. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you showing up.